Hi, I'm Leathur Rokk, and this is Garfield. And today, I want to show you how and what I did when I cleaned out my cat supply bucket. Because if you have cats, you know you should always keep your stuff in a container. So if there's an emergency or something, you can take your cats with you, right? And no kitty wants to be without food. Trust me on that. When you got somebody food motivated, like this guy here, you gotta keep your food supplies all in one container. So, this is my container. This is a 35-pound Sterilite, or 35-gallon rather, Sterilite type container. I think it might even still have the sticker on one side of it. Well, maybe it doesn't. I had to clean it out last week because I noticed it had tiny, tiny little ants that were eating the cat food crumbs that were on the bottom. Now, I don't understand how they got in there considering the lid is always kept shut. And when it's shut, it's waterproof and everything. So if you had to evacuate cause of a flood or something, you could even use these, with ropes and stuff, and you could attach them to things and they float. So I had to dump everything out and clean it and get rid of all the stale crumbs. I threw the crumbs out for the birds and washed in soap and water so that there wouldn't be any residues, because the last thing you want to do is invite the vermin in your house, especially if you have a mouse infestation, which we have many of them, even though Garfield is good with the mice. And some things I decided not to put back because they just take up too much space. And and some of these kitty litters I am actually going to be doing reviews and comparisons of some of them in a later time, maybe later on in the month. This is pretty good litter, by the way. I don't even remember how I got that. This may have been a gift, or I may have actually scored this in one of my ways that I find free things, but it's not the cheapest stuff, but it is good, and you can keep, this is actually an empty container. This doesn't have anything anymore, but these are good. You can use these after you wash them out. You can use these to store cat food. You can definitely reuse these things, and you can also keep them as is, as a flotation device. Because if you ever have a situation where somebody needs a life preserver or something, you see this has a handle on it. You make sure the screw's on tight and the lid's on tight, and you could actually save a life with these. So, got my nice big bucket here, and some of the things I took out and some of the things I put back already. This is an unopened, let's see, this is what, 16 pounds? Friskies Tender Crunch cat food. Garfield loves it. If you're looking for a nice size pound bag of food, this is good. I love it when they have the big bags. It's just, they last, because cats gotta eat, and as long as you store them in something that's airtight, you shouldn't have any problem with vermin. This is my open thing with the same kind of food. Since these don't have Ziplocs on them, it's really important to keep as much air out as possible. So I like to roll things down well, just to make it that much harder for whatever insect life there might be to smell the food. And when he eats some more of this food and I can actually fit this in a big Ziploc bag, I'm going to put this whole thing in a Ziploc bag and put it back in here. One thing you might not know is good to have around for cats is Pepto-Bismol. Pepto-Bismol, of course, and this is the generic version of it. It just says stomach relief, and it's made by Rite Aid. But this is just generic Pepto-Bismol. Did you know if you have a cat that has diarrhea, or you have a cat who's throwing up, you can actually give them, I guess it's like a half a teaspoon of Pepto-Bismol. And believe it or not, even though it doesn't seem like the sort of flavor that a cat would like, cats do like it. And it won't hurt them. Don't give it to your cat if he's constipated, though, because one of the things this does is, since it's a treatment for of not only upset stomach but diarrhea also. If you're constipated, it might not be helpful. But if he's just throwing up, and again, I'm not a veterinarian, don't take this as medical advice, but we were told this by the veterinarian that was taking care of my cat who had diabetes. And he lived for 16 and a half years. And of course, it helps when you have a hardworking family member with a good casino job and you can avoid those high bet bills. Not everybody can do so. At the bare minimum, get your cats their first shots, and spay and neuter, of course, is not negotiable. But definitely, I recommend Pepto-Bismol in your supply thing. What cat doesn't love cat treats? This is a box that had greenies in it. That's a really great brand, and it helps with the dental issues and stuff. But the main treats that I am using right now for Garfield and other street cats that I run into are the Temptations. And if you have cats, you know what I'm talking about. Temptations have a great name because they absolutely go for it. I have never met a cat alive since they started making Temptations that did not love them. And I have, you know what? Like I said, I didn't put everything back yet. I stuck a few things in here, I think. Oh, okay. I did get things out of there. Well, alright, well, I'm showing you things that I have out here. This Tidy Cats is now owned by Purina. Did you know that? You know how companies buy out smaller companies, and even with the food that we humans eat, there's like for all the hundreds and thousands of brands they're bought out by a handful of big multinationals. Well, Ralston Purina, I don't know if they still have the Ralston on them, they bought out Tidy Cats. And this is the non-clumping version of their clay litter. I'm going to be doing a comparison of that to this other litter I'm about to show you in a minute. Here we go. This is the Purina Tidy Cats multi-cat clumping litter. And this looks like a big old box, and believe me, it is. And it says this takes the place of a 35-pound bag, but it is 17 pounds. And it feels like about 20 pounds. Now something like this can go in the box, in the case that it doesn't fit the storage container. I can always put it on a shelf. But I like to confine things to this box, this Sterilite box, because that way, if there's ever an emergency, if say we were to get a hurricane or a flood or something and we actually had to evacuate, we could. And I have leashes, and I still have collars. Of course, I've never put a collar on Garfield yet. Let's see how he feels about that. Here's the other treats I was telling you about. This is a nice big bucket of Temptations that was sent by a friend who also watches my videos. I'm not going to say your name because I want to keep people's privacy and all that. But thank you so much. You know, Garfield is a happy kitty, and he is a forever indoor kitty now. He never has to be outside again. And I really appreciate it when people help me out by sending me things like treats and cat food. Cat food like this big bag here that Garfield loves so much. This goes in this bucket. The scoop, which I've had for about 20 years. This is just a scoop like you would use for candy or for rice or for beans. You see these in markets where they have bulk herbs and spices, and they oftentimes have a scoop. And these are great. It's big. It holds more than enough for a serving of dry cat food. You can use it for other things. You can use it for clean kitty litter. You can use this for fruits and vegetables and everything. Some people keep one just for their cat supplies and the other for household things. I don't have problem with cat food, and I know what soap and water is. That bucket is also good to keep extra bowls. This we've had for a long time. I have the red food and water bowls that I got from the Humane Society when I got Cassie, the garden cat. Uh, you know, the story behind her. She actually, I'll give you the short version. She used to belong to a junkie lady that lived in the neighborhood, and when the lady died, the cat was taken away when the body was taken away. And I found out about it. I went to the shelter. I paid, what was it, $32 adoption fee. And they didn't know that Cassie, the garden cat, was deaf. I had her almost 2 years before I actually found out that she was deaf. And if you look on my playlist that's all about cats, you can see the story of Cassie, the garden cat. Everything is on my channel. But, and I have had this bucket for maybe 20 years. It's been in the family. It's been through a number of cats. And this is the official cat supply bucket. I have just one remaining can. Friskies, they love the pate. Cats seem to really love things that they don't have to chew too hard. Or if you have a cat that's older and has dental problems, had some extractions, has a little bit of infection going on, sometimes they like a softer food where they can't chew. And the pates always work well. I've never known a cat that didn't love them. And these are other smaller bags of treats. One of my junkie friends, sold me 5 packages of treats and a thing of X-Acto knives for $5. And it was the same guy that sold me a bunch of sunblocks. And that's something that, and by the way, speaking of sunblock, did you know that they have pet-safe sunscreens? If you have a hairless cat, like a Sphinx cat, ask your veterinarian. They may recommend a pet-safe sunblock, because white dogs and cats that don't have fur, their skin is sensitive to the sun, and if it's burning you, it's burning them. And it burns their paws too. Think about how your bare feet would be on a hot sidewalk. If it's too hot for you, it's too hot for your dogs and cats. So think about them when you're outside. They have feelings just like we do. Other things I have in here, this is to help get mats and snarls out of a cat or dog's fur. So I have this, and this I haven't even taken out of the box. I don't even remember the story behind this. Maybe this was sent to me by a friend or something. Most of this is in Chinese, but it says Easy Sui Hair Remover. So this is for dogs and cats. Another thing I have is real clippers. I don't know if these are only for animals or these are mainly for men, but they can be used for animals. If you have a cat or dog who's got real serious matted fur, you can use something like this to shave them down. And I got sent this a couple years ago when Cassie, the garden cat, had very matted fur. And it turned out that I actually was able to unsnarl a lot of her hair by hand and by using scissors very carefully. And that's what I did with the snags and snarls and mats in Garfield's fur. I used scissors on him when he was still outside, and I had to do it a little bit at a time. You have to be patient when you're doing that to an animal so that you don't pinch the skin. Just make sure that what you're cutting is just hair, and you're not pulling on them, and you're not hurting them. Look at their animal's body language. You can tell if you're causing discomfort. They'll let you know. So, but when you wash and dry a box, this container, I made sure to hang it upside down. It was air dried. I went over it with a paper towel, because the last thing you want is moisture when you're going to be storing dry food. Mold will get in there. It'll encourage insects, and you're thinking, how do these tiny, tiny little ants? I mean, these are really small. We got different sizes of ants in the house also. It's in this whole neighborhood. The garden, they have ants coming into the apartments around there. They're just, you can see anthills in the cracks in the sidewalk all around here. And for a while there, I actually poured boiling water on them, thinking that that would be a way to kill them. But then I felt bad about it, because I realized that, would you like boiling water poured on you? There's no need to torture life just to control it or to get rid of it. You don't need to torture to kill. That should not even have to be said. and unfortunately I can't change the past, but like about 4 times I did try the boiling water trick, which incidentally didn't kill the ant colonies, and it certainly didn't stop them from moving, and I don't know what we're going to do, because I really don't like using poisons, especially when you have animals. You got cats, and they can be very sensitive. Even if a cat has fleas, I would hesitate before throwing on a flea treatment, because you don't know. Sometimes cats have reactions. Sometimes cats and dogs have died from flea collars and flea treatments, and if you use more than one form of flea treatment, that can be fatal. That's doubling up on poisons. You can't do that. I would definitely seek the advice of a veterinarian that you trust. I might have to bite the bullet and take Garfield to a veterinarian to see about his fleas, but I'm afraid of what that's going to cost, especially considering this computer has been shutting down like 10 times a day. And matter of fact, it shut down a few minutes before I pressed record for this, and I had to reboot it and all that stuff. It's a good thing I know how to do that, huh? But bottom line, you put all your num-nums in a good airtight bucket like this. This I haven't even opened yet. Have you seen those kind of treats that they often show in the cat videos, that they're actually liquid? It's in a paper and plastic tube, and you cut off the tube and they look at it. Well, I haven't opened these yet, but I'm definitely going to see what Garfield thinks about them. He'll probably love them because they're food. You could tell by his body. He definitely loves his food. Here's another thing I have in here from another one of my friends who is also a viewer, and I guess I could say her name. Tiger, hold that tiger, hold that tiger. And last time I saw Tiger, she gave me some cat food that one of her kitties was just too finicky and didn't like. And hey, you know what? If your cat doesn't like the food, maybe mine will. You never know. And she also gave me this. I haven't tried this yet. I haven't opened it. It says, "Here, kitty, kitty, cat treats made from chicken." And this is made by Trader Joe's. So many good things are made by Trader Joe's. I wish I lived near one. In California, I know where several of them are. And they're just amazing places full of wonderful food, a lot of healthy options, and not everything is extremely expensive, even by my standards. And I'm as frugal as they come. But if you really want good quality, fresh, healthy food at various price points, Trader Joe's. I can't say enough about how much I love them and their advertising. They have the sales circular called the Fearless Flyer, and it's intelligently written, it's funny, it's charming, it's quaint. It harkens to a simpler, gentler time, and yet it's still sophisticated and contemporary in a way that only food stores that are in existence now in 2024, with all the diverse populations that they serve. So you get food from different cultures, and many of it is organic and just really wonderful. They even sell beverages like wine and other alcohols, and I don't drink, but many people do. They have sweets, they have breads, they have seafood. They're just amazing. And no, I'm not sponsored by them. I've never been sponsored by any company, okay? You know, all my opinions are my own, and all my channel ideas are my own and stuff. I'm never going to go to AI to get ideas for things, because I think that's just cheating. And I think too many people are finding it easy to use AI instead of doing the brain work. And maybe that's an efficient way of doing things, but I prefer to use the noggin than a bunch of machinery. That's just me. Maybe I'm old school. But anyway, you want to put your stuff in a good, safe, steady place. This is a container that my family's had for a long time. This is an old, original Whisker Lickens brand cat treats canister. And this is good for all kinds of things, including if you have, say, that Advantage flea treatment, those would go in there. Old collars. This collar belonged to one of my first cats. They say now you shouldn't talk about too much of your past with all your previous animals' names, because they can often be used is security questions. That's the only reason why I don't go into more detail about all the cats I've loved and stuff. But this container, let's see what else is in this. Oh, a pet nail scissors thing that looks like it's never been used, or maybe it has been, but you just put it back in the cardboard. My mother is usually the one that does the cat claw clipping, and you have to really, sometimes that's a two-person job, because one person has to cradle the animal in their arms and keep them from fidgeting around and biting and scratching, and the other person does the cutting. You have to be very careful when you're doing the cutting. This is a syringe. It doesn't have a needle in it, and this is used to administer liquid medicines down a cat's throat. Just shoot it down the throat like you do. I'm sure there's lots of drugs and things that you do that way. This is, tapeworm medication. This is tapeworm tabs. Of course, you have to actually see the worm sticking out of the butt to know that, in fact, your cat has worms. And I wouldn't recommend getting anything over the counter without talking to a professional first, because only they can do the proper tests and find out just exactly what it is that's up. Let me see if this is the book I think it is. Yes. This is a book that I wish we had found when my cats were sick and dying. Look at this. Cat Owner's Home Veterinary Handbook by Delbert G. Carlson, DVM, and James M. Giffen, MD. This is a book that my mother has that was in one of her storage boxes that she just opened like 2 weeks ago when code enforcement was, getting on us about cleaning stuff out. So, and I've hardly cracked the surface of this, but this, you can look up a whole bunch of information if you are trying to determine whether your animal is having symptoms that are serious enough to seek a veterinary advisor. I really wish I'd had this when Tabby Boy was sick. Maybe it would have propelled me to find a professional sooner. Of course, I wouldn't have been able to afford it. That's the thing. Say you go in and get a bunch of tests done, and I've seen this over and over with my friends who are much more flush than I am, and they're always taking their animals to the veterinarian, and they have such huge vet bills, and it's easy for tests to run into the thousands of dollars. You can get a small used car for that. I could possibly get my used school bus for that. And I'm not saying that cats are not worth it, but can you imagine having a couple thousand saved under your mattress, and right away your cat gets sick and you have them run under tests and they still don't know what's wrong, the money's gone, and the cat dies anyway? What do you do in those situations? It's a real hard call to make, and I don't want to be cavalier and say, your cat's going to die anyway, just don't spend the money, because that's a hell of a thing to say. But then again, you could spend the money and your cat still doesn't get treated, and then they'll say, oh, give me a couple more $100 and I'll put him to sleep. No, I'm not going to pay you to murder my cat, thank you. And I know that this is a very controversial thing. I just think that is killing. My mother has days where she's in pain all the time and she's miserable. She even says a couple of times, I want to die. And I know she doesn't really. Now, if we lived in Canada or some other place where euthanasia was actually legal, people do have their sick loved ones put down, like a dog or a cat or whatever. I don't know. I don't think it's right. I wouldn't have my mother put to sleep. I love my mother. Why would I do that to a cat? It seems to me that these days, so many of my friends, their cats are dying and just died, and it's happening a lot lately. And I can't really offer anything to that situation, because there are some people that don't think I did my best with my animals. But again, financial constraints do have something to do with it, and at least the poor people who maybe can't afford to do everything for our animals, at least we're doing something. Better than leaving an animal on the street where he can be liable to abuse, where he's subjected to the elements. Like all these thunderstorms we've been having. We had 3 thunderstorms today and this morning. And I'm holding Garfield, and I put him near the window, and I said, aren't you glad that you're not out in it anymore? So when you keep your cats indoors, not only are they not getting hit by cars and having to deal with the crazy humans and stuff, but they're avoiding all this inclement weather. Let's see if there's anything else in here. What's this? Okay, I pretty much showed you. Oh, speaking of old collars. Oh, this is one of Tabby Boy's collars. See, I would never ever get rid of my cat's collars. I don't know whether I should try to get Garfield used to a collar or not. I would like to actually put a harness on him and a leash, and if I could train him to walk on it, then that would be much safer, because we worry about if our cats get out. And he still sometimes goes near the back door hoping that he gets let out. And I tell him, you don't need to be out. You got a litter box. You can do your poopy and your pee in there. You don't need to be outside. So keep your cats indoors, okay? I mean, just my advice. Studies show that cats and dogs both live a lot longer when they're indoor. Cats especially, because they're so vulnerable to all the other wild animals that are out here. Here we've got raccoons, and sometimes angry dogs, and of course crazy, unpredictable people. And people are probably the biggest danger our companion animals have, because not all people are kind. But you're watching my channel, and if you're watching this video, you probably love cats, so you're probably kind. So, and you are who I make my videos for. So, if you have cats, love them, give them a kiss for me, and I'm sure you have your own storage containers to keep your pet supplies all in one place, safe, ready in case of evacuation, and you always know where your cat's food is. Okay, thank you for watching my video, and I will see you tomorrow. Have a good day. Bye.